All righty. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. Tonight we have Liza Wynette here, who she is going to teach us our intro to graphic design class on how to use Canva this evening. But before I go ahead and formally introduce Liza, I do want to give you a little bit of a refresher if it's been a little while since you've been in the Zoom environment, or if this is your first time in Zoom, which is probably not true for most of us at this point, but just to give a refresher and in case something has updated since the last time you were in Zoom. My name is Susan Winkler. I am the technology librarian here at the Champaign Public Library, and we're really happy to have you tonight. So I want to go over a couple of features of Zoom. The first one is the chat. So there is a little comment bubble down at the bottom of the screen, and that is our chat function. And we would love it if you would go ahead and place any questions you have, or if you want us to have Liza demo something a second time, if you would go ahead and put that in chat as we go along. We're happy to do that. And I'm a firm believer of if you have a question, feel free to ask it when you have it before we move on to the next thing. So please go ahead and put them in the chat as we go along, and I'll try to interject them and ask them to Liza out loud. If you do want to speak a question, or you want to be unmuted so that you can speak a question out loud, we can do that too. That's when we'll use the raise hand button. So you also at the bottom of your screen have a raise hand that looks like a hand. And that is what you can use if you want to ask a question out loud, and we'll try to unmute you so that you can ask your question rather than typing it out. Okay, the other thing I want to point out is we have a live transcription. It's a little box with a CC in it. If you'd like to also be able to see at the bottom of your screen the words as we are saying them, this is Zoom's artificial intelligence at work to try to understand what we're saying and repeat them down below. If you don't want that, you can also click on it and disable it or hide the subtitles, or you can enable the transcript for yourself. Okay. All righty. The only other thing I wanted to say was that we are recording tonight, and we will send a follow-up email probably sometime next week with a link to the recording of the video. We will be putting that up on our YouTube channel. And then we will also put in any questions that maybe need a little bit more explanation than what we can do tonight. Okay, I think that's all I had for my intro. I'd like to go ahead and introduce Liza Wynette. She's a local graphic design and illustrator here in town, and she is going to help us learn Canva tonight.
Thanks. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me tonight, and I'm really excited to introduce Canva and show you all of its special features and what it could do for you. Before we actually start opening and using the application, I thought I would show this little presentation, and give me one moment while I share my screen. And let's see. Let me see if it will let me move my move this around a little bit. Okay, and this presentation was created in Canva. And there we go. All right. So first, I kind of want to talk a little bit about what Canva is. So Canva is an online design service that combines quality design templates, so designs already made for you that you can use, along with digital assets like animations, like these cute little sparkly things up here in the corner, illustrations, and it even has photographs that you can use, and music. It also has a photo editing option, which makes editing your own photos pretty convenient. And it's all in one service, so it's pretty helpful. A lot of people use Canva. I work as a graphic designer, and I think, later than my peers in starting to use Canva. So graphic designers actually do use this, but also instructors, people who are making like social media posts for Instagram, students, and even just for personal projects like making greeting cards. And Canva can create all sorts of different projects. When we think of graphic design, we often think about print projects like brochures or business cards, but it also does a lot more, including social media posts, which a lot of the organizations and businesses in town, they use Canva for their social media posts. They can also make posters, presentations like this one, You can even make resumes and logos and invitations, flyers, and just a lot of different things are available on the service. And there's a lot of advantages of working with Canva that I found in the last couple of years I've used it. The first is it's super easy to use. You just need a little patience and a little practice, and you can get a hang of it, within a couple hours of just kind of navigating their site. And you don't need expensive software. If you think of like the Adobe products like Photoshop and Illustrator, they're super powerful and great to use, but they're also kind of expensive if you just need to make like a quick project or two. The templates that they have are designed by professionals. They have a design staff that makes really nice templates for you. And free quality assets. So like I mentioned, they have animations, photographs, and illustrations, and design for the print and web. So lots of different applications. They also have mobile ready templates, which is quite handy if you're making social media posts and such. They have printing services. So if you wanted to create, let's say, a greeting card and want convenience of just sending it online to a print shop and mailed it to you, they have that service also. But you can download your project and take it to your local print shop. That's something that they offer too. And the best part is it's free. You can get started and make great designs. And for most people, the free service is all you need. If you work with an organization or business that want to use it a lot, then maybe the pro option might be for you. But for the rest of us, free version is just fine. There are a couple drawbacks that you should be aware of when you work with Canva. They're not many though. The first is it has really great templates, and these templates look beautiful out of the box, but it's easy to break them, to make them go from looking pretty good to not looking very good pretty quickly. So my recommendation is, unless you have some graphic design experience, is to stick as close to the template as possible. So don't adjust the typography too much or the layout. Trust the designers that made the template. You can create logos with it, but I find them to be a bit generic. They're perfect logos for if you have like a small soap company or a hobby that you maybe want to sell a few things at the farmer's market. But if you're going into business and that's going to be your, your main income source, you might consider looking for a designer to help you create that logo. And that kind of ties into brand identity. If you're going to start a small business and you need to have identity and build a website and those sort of things, you might consider looking for a professional to help you with that. You also can have template overload, which I kind of suffer from sometimes. I just did put together a presentation for students about lab health policies, and I was looking for templates, and there's just so many good ones. I had a hard time choosing. So sometimes you can get a little bit overloaded, but I'll teach you some techniques on how to prevent that. And some templates I found are kind of difficult to find. So if you have one that you liked and want to search for it again, it can be sometimes difficult to figure out where they put it, but I'll teach you how to resolve that issue too. All right, how to begin. So here's a couple steps that even before you open Canva, that you might want to go through to help yourself out in creating a design. So first is, even before opening Canva in your browser, have a plan. So, and this is especially if you're with a business or small organization, you might want to ask yourself questions like, what do I want to communicate? Who is your target audience? And what should the design feel like? Like, what is the personality of the design? Should it be joyful? Like as a party? Should it be serious? Maybe like a financial institution? Or should it feel sophisticated? That's going to help you sort of kind of cut through all of those templates and find one that's really going to work for you and avoid that template overload. You should also write down the copy that you want to use. So what do you want your message to say? And also ask yourself, what's the best platform? You might think that a flyer is the best platform, but perhaps instead it's a social media post or a postcard. and then write it down. It will definitely help prevent template overload. And that's what I do, is just a pencil and paper. I kind of sketch out or rough out what I want to say. And that will, you know, kind of aid me in the process. But certainly if you want to just open up Canva and experiment and play around with it, there's nothing wrong with that either. Okay. And like I said, if when you begin designing in Canva, just don't be afraid to experiment, explore, see all the options available, because the best way to learn a piece of software or an application is just to try it out. All right, now I'm gonna open up Canva and we're gonna get started. Are there any questions so far? Good, okay. All right, I'm gonna share a different screen. One moment. There it is.
Yes, we can see the login screen. Yes.
You can see the logo. Okay, great.
Yep.
Great. Okay. So to log into Canva, the URL is just www.canva.com. And if you want to follow along, you're more than welcome to. But if you just want to watch, that's good too. And it's free to have the basic account. And you just sign up with your email or mobile number and then set up a password. And it probably will prompt you to verify your email in your email account. So it might take you a couple moments to set this up. But if you want to do that while I'm demonstrating or wait till later, either one works for me. Okay. I already have an account, so I'm going to log in. All right. So on the home page, they have a lot of different options that you're presented with right away. And it can take a little time to navigate these options. So I'm going to walk you through this basic layout where everything is located, and then we'll get into actually designing a project. At the top is our top navigation, and this is one way that you can access the templates within Canva. If we hover over the templates link, you can see that it is sorted by category. Now, this is not, this is kind of a limited selection. They actually have a lot more than what's here, but these are going to be the most popular templates that they have available. And we also have features. So we have things like photographs that you can use for free. They're copyright free. Icons, so like fun graphics, print products, like t-shirts and invitations, things like for apps, explore, and then you can actually download Canva for these different devices. The Learn category is actually quite helpful. So if you're working with an organization or business and you have been, let's say, tasked with creating a piece of graphic design, my recommendation is to check out some of these graphic design basics and some of these tutorials. They'll help you out a lot, especially if you're new to Canva. And some great tutorials to help you. So if you get kind of stuck trying to figure out what you want to do or just need some assistance, these are pretty good. And they also have a fun blog. And some information on the pricing. So we're going to use the free version today, but if you want to expand, there's also pro and education, nonprofits, those sort of things. All right. Now we have this purple bar, and we also have another way of accessing templates. So it's very similar to kind of what we have up in the top navigation. So you can enter the application that way too. On the left is yet another menu, and most of these you're not going to use, except for possibly all your designs. The rest of these are more for the pro version, but you can experiment and click on them in your own time. It kind of gives you some suggestions based on previous templates that you've used. So it's guessing that I might want to create a presentation And so this is kind of similar to what we saw above here. Below that are projects that you've already created. One helpful thing with Canva is it automatically saves every single project that you create, which can be really, really helpful. But if you're just experimenting, you can end up with a lot of projects here that you'll never use. But it's really easy to delete them. Each project has a little menu button at the top right-hand corner. And if you click on that, you have different options. So you can make a duplicate copy if you want to save an original, but experiment with a new copy. You can move it to a different folder, download it, share, and you can move it to the trash. So if you have lots of like experimental projects, that's usually where mine end up, is in the trash, keep things tidy. Right. So any questions about this homepage and where things are located? Good.
No questions so far.
Okay, thanks. All right, well, I thought to start with, we would do something really simple. And that is creating a Halloween card, because it's the holiday that's going to come up the soonest. And so this is what we're going to make. So I thought this was kind of cute. Like if you have a buddy that you've gone trick-or-treating with, or Halloween parties that you are not able to join them this year, I thought this would be kind of fun. So this template comes with this graphic and the color palette, this graphic and the color palette. And then I added a little bit of text, and I'll show you how I did that. I'm gonna go back to home. Right. So this card is called a folded greeting card. And I could try to find it by clicking on card and creating a blank card. But instead, I'm going to go up into the search bar and I'm going to type in folded. I'm going to just start with folded, and it already predicts what I'm looking for. I'm going to say I want a folded card that's portrait format. And I click on that. And then it's going to give me a lot of different options. Generally, the most relevant holiday, or the holiday that's going to come up the soonest, is going to be at the top of the selection. So if you wanted to, let's say, look for Halloween cards, you might need to type that in to find it. And so now we have just the Halloween ones. As you hover over the different templates, you can kind of see in the right-hand corner, this one says it's paid. So that means you need the pro version. But these other ones that say free, they're free to use with the basic version. And I'm going to pick this one, which I had showed you an example before, and you can kind of see the pages slide back and forth and give you a preview. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to load up the template for me. And this is our working canvas. On the right is the working window, or if you're working in Adobe products, they call this the artboard because it kind of simulates a physical working artboard. On the left, it gives you a preview of the pages of the template that you're using. And if I would click on this back button, it will give me other options. So if I change my mind and I decide, no, this template isn't the one that I want to use, I can go in here and explore and experiment with these other templates. And then the navigation bar to the left of that, we have by default templates is clicked, but we have other options. If I click on elements, this is how I can access photographs and graphics and even little animations and videos. Uploads, you can upload your own images if you like, and we'll explore this a little bit later. And then we can also add text. So we were talking at the beginning of the presentation about pairing different types of typefaces, style of typefaces, and it can give you some suggestions on, what might look interesting. These are mostly decorative, but they're there for if you want to kind of take a look. All right. So the only thing I'm going to do to this greeting card is I'm going to add a little bit of text, and that's fairly easy to do. With the text option selected, I'm going to add a little bit of body text. So this is going to be kind of small text, kind of in a paragraph format, but I could also do something like add a subheading, which is just a bigger type of type. So I'm going to click add a bit of text, and it automatically just pops up in the middle of my template. And it has a couple different buttons at the bottom. This one with kind of the cross arrows, that's going to be our move button. So I'm going to click on that and move it into place. And you can see as I move it, there's these guides that help me align it to both the graphics that are in the template and the page itself. So I'm going to center right there. And now it's going to work a lot like a text editor. So I'm going to double click to access this text box. And you can see that I can kind of click inside of it, just like a text editor. And I can select all of the type. And I can write something like, see you at Thanksgiving, I think is what I had before. Okay. And then if I want to deselect it, I'm done editing, I can just click off of it and it deselects it. So this text looks pretty boring compared to the rest of the card. So I would like to kind of match the style of this to the rest of the card. So I'm going to click on it once. And now I'm going to try to change the typeface. And I want the typeface to match this one. So I'm actually going to go back and click inside of here to see what the name of the typeface is. And they're using one called Chewy. I'm going to go back, select my text I want to change, go back up here into the drop down. So it works very similar to Microsoft Word. I'm going to click on the typeface Chewy, and it changes that for me, which is great. Okay. Now I'm also thinking that this black text seems kind of harsh because it's darker than anything else in this composition. So we have this beautiful, fun, soft color palette, and I kind of want to stick with that theme. So with this still selected, I'm going to click on the text color button, which is the A with the rainbow underneath it. And when I click on that, they give you this helpful color palette that matches the artwork in the card. So I don't have to guess what colors are going to look good. I can just pick one that already exists. So maybe I want this, maybe a light color. We can try that. Or maybe this would be fun. So that looks good. I'm going to put an exclamation point at the end. I feel like it's too small. So what I can do is just increase the font size. And that's just like in text editor too. Right now it's set to 20 font size. And I'm just going to click the plus button to increase that size. You could also type in the font size that you would want up here too. So maybe 28. And that works. All right, so that part of it's looking pretty good. I'm going to add one more bit of text just to kind of demonstrate how to add text and edit it one more time. So I'm going to sign off on this message. I'm going to click back here where it says text, add a little bit of body text, click on it, and it generates that type for me. And I'm clicking now on the arrows that are kind of make this cross shape. I'm going to put it up here, and I'll just put my name here. Now that seems kind of boring. I want something that looks more script or like it's handwritten. So in the drop down where the fonts are, I'm just going to find a nice script. While I have this open, you can kind of see, you might be able to see there's a little crown next to some of these typefaces. And that means you have to have the pro version to use that type. But I found that it has, hundreds of different typefaces available, and I've never felt like I haven't had the one that I needed. So I'm pretty satisfied with the free ones. So I'm going to click on the script type. It feels a little too small. So I'm going to increase the type size by just clicking the plus button until it gets the size I want. I'm going to change the color by clicking on the A with the rainbow underneath it. And I think gray would look pretty good with that. So I'm going to choose gray. I can move it around again. And if I wanted to rotate it, kind of like I just wrote it with a pen, it has these little arrows that kind of go in a circle. I can click on that and just give it a little bit of a turn. Do it like that. Okay, and I think that that works great for my card. That's all I needed. And now I can share it, I can print it, make copies of it. And this is how you go about doing that. So you have options that help you at the end of the project in this upper right-hand corner. This first piece of text is what the template is called. So they're calling it pastel, orange, blue, wicked cute, et cetera, et cetera. I found that when I make a lot of different projects, I like to name them something that makes sense to me. So maybe I'm going to call this Miss You Halloween card. And that's a little bit more descriptive for me. And I just press return. And now when it saves it in my files and I open it up on my home page, I can easily find it. It has a title that I recognize. Next, we have a share button. So if I click on that, you're going to be given different options. So I'm the owner of this project, and I can choose to invite people to edit or view this project just by putting in their emails. I can also share a link so that someone can come in here and edit my design. So if you're making a design with like a team at your organization, that might be kind of fun, is to work on it as a group. And this drop down gives you other other options. So you can share the link to use as a template. So if you don't want them to edit what you're working on and just have a template, you can do that. Or if you simply want to share it with someone so they can see it but not edit it, that's an option too. And you can also copy a link and email it to your team members. And I've actually done that a lot. I also work at Parkland, and I recently made some presentations for the graphic design department, and I was able to share those presentations with my fellow instructors so that they could use them in their classroom. So it was really helpful. You can also download these designs onto your computer and just click the arrow that points down, and it will give you different types of file formats to choose from. My recommendation, if you're going to print it, is probably PDF, because you can open it in all sorts of locations and it's easiest for the print shops to open and use. But you can also download other versions. If you had video, of course you can download it as video. You can also download it as a standard PDF, which is a much smaller size. And for really small sizes, maybe just you want to share it on the internet or in an email, you can choose JPEG, those sort of things. All right. And in the very right-hand corner, you see the 3 dots. You have other options on how to share it. And also, if you want to print it, you can certainly click on some of these options, and it will walk you through how you can print your product the different papers that you might have available, how many copies. And it gives you a super cute preview of what it's going to look like when it's finished. So I'm going to exit out of that. So
Liza,
yeah.
just a quick question. Does it save? It saves everything as you're doing it live too, correct?
Correct. Yep. So you never have to push a save button. It's really helpful.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Oh, I should also demonstrate while I'm here is the super duper helpful undo button, which is good to know where it exists. So let's say I did something I didn't like and I wanted to go back. In the upper left-hand corner, there's a little arrow. And when you hover over it, it says undo and also Command Z. So if I click undo enough times, you can see my name is shifting. You can see that, before and after where I moved it. You can also press Command Z as in zebra, and that is the keyboard shortcut for undo. So if you're good with your keyboard shortcuts, that might be one to use. All right. I'm going to go back to my home page to show you where this ends up when it's finished. So in the upper left-hand corner, we have a home button. I'm going to click on that. And here you can see that the one that I made earlier today shows up. And the one that I just did is right here. There's something that you should know about with Canva is that, especially if you're using Safari browser like I am, it might take a little while for the application to recognize the new name that you gave it earlier. And I found that to be, just kind of a weird quirk that you should be aware of, that knowing that this has been changed, you did change it, but it's going to take a while for it to update. All right.
I'm not sure, did we actually change the name of it?
We did, yep. I'm going to go back to that template and click on it. Oh, and it didn't update here either. So, so we could try that again, or I can go back to the home and I can try renaming it here just by clicking on the name. So I can do Halloween. Okay, and then hopefully we'll save it.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So I thought the next project we would do together would be an Instagram social media post, which is one of the most common posts that organizations and businesses tend to make for promoting themselves online. And we're going to make this one here. I click on it. And we have a few elements here that that are going to be kind of fun and interesting to experiment with. First, we're going to change the type. We're going to exchange some video for still photographs. And we're going to create a little animation. We're going to import that as just something fun because motion always catches the eye, especially on Instagram. I'm going to go back home and we'll start from scratch. All right. So this time I'm going to start a project by clicking on one of these options, and I'll do Instagram post. And this is going to create a blank one. And we're going to choose a template, and after we create the blank, I'll click on that. So now we have this blank canvas, nothing on it yet. And we should probably find a template. It recognizes that I've used this template before because under recently used, it pops up here. And for this Instagram post, I'm making a little advertisement for a fictional pottery studio called Bluebird Pottery. And it's going to promote the beginning of their classes. And one thing you should know about looking for templates is that you shouldn't limit yourself to the templates just for that specific subject matter. So I could have looked at templates just for like arts and crafts or hobbies, maybe community events. But I actually found the one that I wanted to use the most under food and drink, of all things. And it has video instead of still photographs, but that's just fine. And I found that just by kind of like looking through some of these categories and looking for something that had the feel and the energy that I wanted. Because remember when I told you it might be a good idea to write down the look and the feel of your post before you got started? Well, I actually did that, and I wanted something that was energetic and fun and bold, but very friendly. And I thought this one fit the bill. So for time's sake, I'm not going to hunt through all of these templates to find it. I'm just going to click on it under my recently used. So if I click once, it auto-populates my artboard with the assets that they use to make this, this post. So we have some video and some text, and we're going to edit this so it fits our message better. Okay, I'm going to give you 1 second.
For anyone that wants to search for it, Liza, if I can tell them, I just searched for it under drink coffee, and it's about the fourth one down.
Oh, great, thank you. Great. The first thing I'm going to do here is change the photographs. And I'm going to go over to Elements and choose Photographs or Photos and click on See All. So these are stock photographs that are available on other websites like Pixabay, and they're royalty free. You can use them for any of your projects without risking copyright. And for this one, I'm going to search for pottery. Oh, here we go. And see what they have available. And so lots of free pottery images are here. And I'm kind of fond of this one. And you can see that's free because it says free in the lower right-hand corner. And I'm simply just going to click and hold and then drag over this area that had the photograph I want to replace. And it automatically snaps it in there. My problem with this right now is that it didn't center it very well. Like I would like the pot to be off to the left a little bit. But I need to access the photograph in the bounding box. So the way this is set up is that we have like a prop box or a bounding box. And inside of that box lives the photograph. And you can't move the photograph unless you access it in a very special way. To do that, we're going to click once just to select this area and then do a double click. And as soon as you double click it, you can kind of see the frosted edges of this video or this image. Now I can click on it and move it into the location that I want and then click off of it. If I just clicked on it once and then moved it, I would move the entire bounding box, that crop box, but not the image on the inside. So that's something to keep in mind. I'll demonstrate that one more time when I replace this one. I remember that when I was looking for photographs for pottery, I didn't find anything that I really wanted to use that looked good with this one. I wanted to see kind of a figure that was trimming a pot or on the wheel, but it was kind of, you couldn't really see the face. It was just kind of demonstrating the activity. So I uploaded one. And you can do that by choosing the Uploads button. I'm going to click that here. And simply click Upload Media. And you can choose from your device. So if you're using this on like a cell phone or a desktop computer, you can click that. Or you might have images saved on these other applications. I'm not going to go through that process, but it's pretty straightforward. This is one that I have updated earlier. uploaded earlier, excuse me. So I'm going to simply click on it once and hold, drag, and drop it. And it actually came in looking pretty nicely. I'm happy with how that's cropped. But if I did want to change it, I would double click on the image, and now I can kind of shift it around and move it. I could also make it bigger and smaller just by clicking on the little circle in the corner. Let's see if I can add that. Yep, there we go. So if I wanted to, let's say, really focus in on his hands, I could do that. Or I think I'm just going to go right back down to where he was before. There we go. Okay, and when I'm finished, I just click off of it. Okay. Now I need to change the text. So just like we did before, I'm going to double click inside the text box, and that kind of automatically highlights everything too. And my text is going to be pottery classes begin June 1st. Okay. Now this is unfortunate, and this does happen when you have text that is in Canva that's kind of squashed in this bounding box that doesn't quite fit it. It tries to break it in these awkward ways, but there are different methods that you can use to make it fit better. The first is to simply make the box that the text lives in a bigger size. I can grab then, I'm going to have to click off of it once. Now I'm going to click back on it. And that allows me to select the bounding box. As these little bars on the outside, and when I grab it, it makes the bounding box wider and more narrow. So as you can see, if I make the box bigger, then I don't have this issue with it cutting off the words in a funny way. Whenever you make a text box bigger or smaller in Canva, you want to make sure that it's still centered inside of where it lives. So I'm going to click on it and kind of move it around and make sure that it snaps into place with this yellow box. I can see that by that magenta dotted line. And that looks pretty good. I could also fix that problem by simply making the type smaller also. So I could select the type and just make it bigger or smaller to fit that text box a little bit better. And I'm going to, oops. That's one thing that I find a little bit tricky with Canva is there's a fine line between selecting the text in the box and just clicking and moving it over. So if you keep doing that, don't worry, you'll get the hang of it. it takes a little practice. I kind of like the fact that it said A and then something. So I'm going to go, hey, ceramic lovers. Okay. In here we have that same issue where I wanted it all in one line, but the bounding box is not big enough. So in this circumstance, I'm going to make this text just a little bit smaller. I went down 1 point size, and now it's all on one line. And I'm not going to change the typography. I really like the way that it looks. I know this designer put a lot of time into pairing these font weights together. So I'm going to trust the designer that they made the right decision on this one. And I'm going to change the type down here. I'm going to double click in the type box, and we're going to go registration. So this is my call to action. Like, hey, there's going to be pottery classes, and you should register right now. I want to emphasize this. Since this is a social media post, and I know that motion gets attention, I'm going to add a little bit of animation here. Back in this left column, I'm going to choose the elements button. And this is where you can get pretty creative. You have all these options, photos, graphics, videos, audio. I know little animations lives in the graphics category, so I'm going to choose that. And I'm going to have to exit out of pottery because it still thinks that I'm searching for pottery up here. So I'm going to click on the little X. So it gives me all of the different types of graphics. Oh, excuse me. So I'm gonna click on graphics again. And they have lots of different ones to choose from. I want something that's circular because I want it to feel like a potter's wheel. So I'm gonna go under shapes and then circle and see if there's anything in here that is interesting. And so these are not animated. I want one that's animated. So I might have to go down a little bit here to find the one that I want. Let's see. So they moved the circle that I was using to way down at the bottom of the list. So that does happen. You get used to something being in a certain location, then Canva moves it on you. So let's see here. This one might be kind of fun, just for the sake of time. I'm going to grab this one. And this one feels a little bit more mechanical than organic, but you know, it might work. It's still going around in a circle. And I'm going to snap it into place. And you can see I have the magenta dotted lines here. So that's kind of fun. Oh, here it is. Here's one that's kind of interesting. So if I wanted to delete this is not what I wanted, I can simply hit the delete key. I'm gonna grab this one. This one's new. I haven't seen this one before. So I'm just dragging and dropping it and resizing it by grabbing the corner and making it smaller. Well, that's kind of fun. We'll go with that one. All right. Now there's just a couple things that we can do to fine tune this and make it even more interesting. I kind of wanted these photographs to feel a little bit warmer and to harmonize a little bit better with one another. And the one way we can do that is to use photo filters. So just like when you use a photo filter on Instagram, or maybe even in your native camera application or photo application on your phone, it kind of works the same way. So I'm going to click on one of these images and choose filter. And now I can choose, you know, pretty common filters. So maybe the selfie filter would be kind of fun. I like that one because it makes it feel warm, like the kind of yellow gold color of this background. And then you can change the intensity. So if you wanted like a really super intense overlay, you could do that. Or you could drop it down a little bit. I'm going to go around 30. And I'm going to do the same thing with this other photograph. I'm going to add a filter, do the selfie filter, and then just drop down the filter to around 30% or so. All right. That sounds good. So this is almost ready to go. You could also do something like add music to it if you like. So if I went to elements and audio, there's these really fun tracks that you can use. Some are free, some are pro. And I'm trying to see if I can find a free one in here. Oh, let's see. Interesting, they're all, I know they have free ones in here.
Yeah, I've definitely found free ones before, so.
Yeah. Oh, let me get rid of circle. I wonder if it's trying to.
Could be.
There we go. Photos, videos, audio, see all. There we go. Okay. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're not finding what you think you're supposed to be finding, just check to make sure you don't have something stuck in the search bar. So ukulele, that would be kind of fun. So I'm gonna just drop that in there. And at the top, it gives you the audio bar, and you can move the selection back and forth. So if you wanted to select something in the middle of the track, you could do that. And so yeah, it's kind of folksy and fun. And it will just continue to repeat.
Liza, someone has asked if you can show again how you got to the filters.
Oh, absolutely. All you need to do is click on the photograph And that will generate the different ways to manipulate that photograph. And I used filter and then selfie. But you could use any of these other ones and get what kind of something that's interesting. While I'm here, you can also do other things like effects. If you wanted to, let's say, do a duotone, you could do that. And some of these are third parties, but you know, you can click on some of these other things and it's kind of interesting. It also has other adjustments like you'd expect in Adobe Photoshop or a photo imaging editing app on your phone. You can change the brightness, the saturation. You could add a vignette if you like. So those all are very common adjustments that are available. You can crop it or even flip it if it's not the format that you want. All right. And a lot like the print, the card that we did, you can also share this with other people. You can download it. It generally will suggest the correct file type for you. In this circumstance, it's MP4 video because we have some motion. And we also have some music that goes with, so that would be a good thing to use.
Liza, do you know if you can use filters on any of the video content?
Oh, I think you can. Let's try it out. Let's go elements and video. And let's drop that one in there. Okay, well, that's kind of fun. I'm going to click on it and let's see, let's see, crop. It does not give me options to add a filter directly to the video. One thing that we could do to change that would be we could kind of fake it. And if we go to graphics and let's say, like we could put a gradient on top of it. Now I've never actually done this in Canva, but I'm kind of experimenting to see if it will let me do anything interesting with it. Here we go. So I dropped a gradient on top of it, but you could probably change it to a single color if you wanted to. In the right-hand corner up here, this checkerboard that usually indicates transparency. So I could actually drop that down and kind of do my own overlay. So I'm faking it. So that would be a workaround.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions while I'm here?
And keep in mind too that if you have questions, we can also unmute you so that you can ask your question out loud too if you'd prefer. Just raise your hand in the Zoom window there and I'll unmute you if you'd like to ask a question out loud. Does anyone have specific projects that they're hoping to use Canva for? I like asking that question myself. I use it for digital scrapbooking, so it takes a lot of the guesswork out of having to arrange things for me to just be able to go in there and find an image and have the text there and just put in my text that I want instead.
Yeah, it's a great service for, we were mentioning before, like making presentations, especially for coworkers. And so one thing that I was working on earlier was making a slideshow for the lab and health policies at my workplace for the students. And I just looked up studying and presentations. And I might have even done education presentations. It's still thinking that I'm wanting to do an Instagram post. So it's populating this with Instagram type of like square formats. But if I would go to home and search then for presentation, And one thing I was looking for also was kind of like self-care tips for students, because being a student is super stressful. And so they had lots of these kind of presentations that are current, that are addressing current issues, which I think is really nice. So they have lots of, you know, COVID awareness presentations. Let's see. Yeah. You know, things to keep it, you know, that might be helpful for your workplace if that was the thing that you needed to do.
Yep. If anyone attended our Art of Podcasting class that we did 2 Mondays ago, Madeline and I used Canva for that presentation that we gave. I don't know if I see anybody here that went to that, but if you look at the video of that on YouTube, you'll notice that it was done with Canva.
Nice. And one thing I liked about it is that when you click on a presentation, it gives you all of these slides, and you can choose to apply all 16 pages, and it then populates the bottom with the pages. And when I make a presentation, I generally will, you know, replace the content, the wordage, and I might also shuffle around the slides, or delete some or duplicate some to best fit my message. And it's really easy to do that in this bottom bar. I can just click on the little 3 dots, and I can duplicate it. I can completely delete it. I can even add a blank one in the middle just by hovering in the middle of something, of these slides. And then let's see if I like elements from one slide but want to put it in a different slide. I can simply select it and do a Command C for copy if you have a Mac, or Control C on a PC. Go back to the slide that I might want that graphic on, or even text, and do Command V as in Victor, or you know, Control V if you have a Mac, and place it within the new slide. And it does save the color palettes just like we did before. So if I wanted to change the background to something different to see this boy a little bit better, I could change the background quite easily and still stick with the color theme that came with the presentation.
Yeah, it worked really well for us too, because we were both doing different parts of the presentation, but it all still looked very seamless because we kept all of the design elements the same because they were already in the presentation template. So it was very easy for us to use the same color scheme because it was right there, and to use the same fonts because it was already in the presentation.
Oh, so, nice.
Yeah. So, do you want to, Liza, do you want to show real quick how to create your own from your own sizing if you needed a specific size too?
Yeah, I think, let's see. So like for like a card or a postcard?
Yeah,
or...
for something like, for example, for me, I do like 3x4 journal cards or something for scrapbooking.
Oh,
but
okay.
you could do it like, you know, a 4x6 or whatever size you wanted with something.
That's a great question. That's one I've never came across for myself, but I believe if we click on the custom size button up here, yep, you can then choose the height and width. You probably don't want to use pixels unless you're familiar with creating you know, art with pixels. So my recommendation is to choose either inches, centimeters, millimeters, whichever measurement system you're comfortable with, and then put in, let's say 4x5, and then create new design. And now it looks like it will let me populate it with, you know, different, it seems to recognize that it was 4x5 and gave me options that might work for this. So
thank you. Let's see. Oh, we have another great question in the chat. When you use the free version of Canva, are your designs public? Can anyone see or use or copy them?
Not unless you give them, you share a link. It's completely private and in your account. Good question.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah, and I'm happy to demonstrate like something that I've already done or something that you might be interested in for a personal project.
Yeah. Other questions? And remember, we can always unmute you too if you'd like to speak your question instead of type it out. So I have actually seen Canva commercials on TV recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was like, hey, look, it's Canva. So I don't know if they're starting to do some more heavy marketing on television or other media. But that was fun because then I got to say to my spouse, haha, we're gonna have a class on that.
Great.
So
And I think it gets better. Like it's the interface has changed over the last couple of years. It just keeps getting better and more design options and a lot more different formats that you can use, and they really stay current with what's happening, like in the socio-political realm. They stay up to date.
I have actually a sort of advanced question for you.
Sure.
How do you group elements together?
Oh, that is
if that's something you can do in Canva.
Yes, it is. So I can use this as a demonstration. This will actually work pretty well. So these elements, if I click on them, you can see that there's a little button up here that says ungroup, which tells me that this is grouped with another element. And I'm not sure exactly what it's grouped with, but it's grouped to something. So I'm going to click the ungroup button. And now I can actually see what was grouped. Looks like these little pieces of tape and the border. So if I click then off of this and then click back on it, now I can individually select these components. If I wanted to group objects together, so I want to do the opposite, I simply select the objects I want to group. So let's say I'm going to do this, this object. I'm going to click once on that object. I'm going to hold down the shift key. The shift key is great for selecting multiples. And let's say I want to group it with this little logo. I'm going to click on it. And I was hoping that the group button would stay up here. I click on position. And what if I happen to right click on it? Oh my goodness, I was expecting it to say like the group up here. Let me try something else. Okay, so it won't let me group this. Oh, because it's already grouped with something. Okay, so this is a good experiment. This is kind of why experimenting and playing around with things is really important. So if I click on this, I can see, well, it's already grouped with something. So I'm gonna ungroup that. Now let's try it. So I'm gonna click on that, shift click on that image. Now I can group them because they don't have buddies yet. So I'm going to make them buddies by grouping them together. Now if I click on them, they're going to go together and they're going to be buddies here. And I'm going to undo that.
Thank you.
Yep.
So we have another question. If you can start with a blank, let's see, just a blank, I'm assuming a blank canvas,
okay,
and then add elements to it without a template.
Sure, we can definitely do that. So I'm going to go back to home and let's do a blank card just for the sake of something. Okay. And here's our blank canvas. So one thing that you can start with is simply clicking on the canvas and adding a background color. And that's going to show up here. So I click on it. You can click on any of these colors, which are quite nice, or you can click on add a new color and then pick one from this color selector. So maybe we want to do something like a light brown. Do that. And then you can simply, if you wanted to start adding images or elements, you can click on the elements button. Maybe we want to add a photograph. Oh, the little doggy. So I simply clicked on it and it populated it.
Also did a really nice job of matching the sweater with your background color there.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. And when you resize it, it's going to want to crop it. So remember when we talked about the bounding box earlier? That's what it's trying to do. So we're making our own bounding box for this right now. And remember, if I want to select the image inside of it, I simply double click the image and then move it over. I'm going to make that just a little bit smaller so I can put some text in here. And next, I just click the text button. And you can choose, you know, something like font combinations if you wanted to. We can just drag and drop that. Oh, give me 2. And I'm going to make, see. So you can see how you'll have to resize things and you know, make them to fit the area that you want to use. You know, and then you could just kind of go ahead and edit that. Or if you didn't want to do a combination, get rid of that. You can just simply add a header and start this way, like start from scratch, and then choose your own typefaces and add them.
I like that Chewy seems like a good heading for a dog photo anyway, for a good font for a dog photo.
Yep.
We have another question about if you have actually used the Canva print service before and whether or not it's a good quality at good price.
That is a very good question. I have not, because I have a very well-established relationship with a couple print shops in town. So I like to support my local business and really see a proof of what I'm getting. I can't imagine their printing service would be bad though. They do have a reputation and they're widely used. But if you want to err on the side of caution, is just order maybe like if you're going to do a big lot, like thousands, order a sample of maybe like a dozen just to see what they look like before paying a lot of money for a large quantity.
Yeah, I do know someone who designed their own business cards, and though they haven't used the print service yet, they were planning on using Canva's print service. So I can't speak to the quality yet, but I can tell you that there are people who are planning to use it.
Okay, it's good to know. And you can also download a PDF and use a print service that that you know for sure has a good reputation, like Instaprints or MooCards. Those are all good services. I personally use MooCard a lot if I have to order something kind of special online in small quantities that they won't do at the print shop here in town. I've been very happy with the quality of that.
Great, thank you. Other questions? Questions? Doesn't look okay. Doesn't look like we have any other questions right now. But if you find that you do have questions, you can feel free to reach out to me via email too. My email is swinkler@champaign.org, and I'll put that in the chat for you as well. Let me put that. Oops, let me put that in here for you. There we go. And if anyone is interested, we do also have our tech workshops on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. We do all sorts of topics, and our specialty tech topics like tonight, those are usually on Monday evenings, usually once a month. We don't have one set up for September, but we probably will have something in October, and then again in November and December. So, all right. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks everyone. I appreciate that you took the time to join us. And
I'll go ahead and pop my video back up here. All right, thank you everyone for coming and joining us tonight. I hope you enjoyed our presentation. Do expect an email pretty soon that will have a link to the recording of today's workshop, and then it'll also have some of the answers to any follow-up questions you might have. And I hope we'll see you again soon for virtually or in person. The library is open, so you can come visit us in person if you like. and use our computers. We do have creation stations too. So if you do want to use some of the more advanced products as well, or Canva, you can certainly come and use our computers to do that as well. So, all right. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.